Woo! All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's me, Jade, with the lovely Nick, and we're here to talk about like weeaboos today.
That lovely
So,
term.
yeah. Okay.
I can also assure you right from this moment, I was being completely cynical about that statement. So, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I just wanted to get my whole thoughts down on this whole freaking thing because it's a giant freaking nuisance for anybody who is interested in anything about like Japanese culture whatsoever. Is this whole fucking nonsensical bullshit? Oh, you fucking weeb! How dare you like anime or Asian cartoons, as I like to calls them? How dare you? Like, I mean, the Filthy Frank video from like years ago was pretty fucking funny, and I enjoyed it because it's fun to laugh at, like, you know, the subculture you're a part of every now and again. But like, I feel like people have taken it to this like absurd extreme now.
Or I feel like, I mean, this is gonna go into some of the what rant I'm gonna go to, but it just keeps morphing into different ways in which it's used. Like it goes from insult to, hey, lol, let me use this as a common way to talk to my peers because it's funny. And it's just so strange.
You know what it's like? It's like the fucking N-word. It's like,
yeah, I now that you bring that up, I totally see that. It's so weird.
yeah, it's like on one hand, like one person can be like, you can just throw it around like, hey, you fucking weeb. And on the other hand, it's like, oh, me and my weeb friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting observation that I just made at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can continue on, Nick.
Okay, so, well, first, like, I think it's proper to give people origin, because I think that's one of the things most people don't really know. And this is kind of funny when you think about it, but a lot of new people that come into the community probably have no idea what the term originally meant or what it was even used for. Because it's so anonymous with, like, or synonymous with talking to anybody that has interest in anime styled stuff. Like, it can be. And depending, yeah, as we were just saying, depending on who says it and how it's used, it can either be like derogatory or it can be kind of low funny. So, but yeah, so the origin, so originally the word didn't exist, and the word to be derogatory towards people that were interested in any way towards like Japanese culture, and especially if you're like obsessive about it and you were like, oh, it's so great and shit like that, it was Weaponese. But then eventually, like in the mid 2000s, it got replaced by weeaboo. And the funny thing about the word weeaboo is that when it was first used in a comic, it says the comic was Perry Bible Fellowship back in like 2005 or whatever. It had no connotation or relation to Japanese stuff. Like the guy used the word as a way to like make it was like the comic. If you look it up, it's like their people are in business meeting and the guy just says the word weeaboo, and then everybody else is like, "Oh, did you say weeaboo? All right, you got to get smacked now." That was the whole point of it. Nothing related to Japanese stuff, and then all of a sudden, people started using that in relation to as a derogatory meaning against people that like Japanese stuff, and they're like, "Oh, weeaboo." Weeaboo, weeaboo, weeaboo. So then for a while, the term weeaboo was used against people that were like so obsessed with like Japanese cultures and stuff that they like denounce their own culture and say Japan is almighty and everything else is shit. Why couldn't I be Japanese? I know everything about Japan. Because I've watched anime and manga and read or played video games and stuff. When in reality, you don't. So it was that for a while, and then like I don't know, maybe a couple years ago, I don't really know the like exact date, but these days, like people in the anime community just use it to talk to each other. they're like, oh, like this is my level of weeb right now. Is the fact that
Yeah.
I read these visual novels, which makes me like 100 times weeb.
Yeah, it makes you a fucking god. You're a level, you're a level 50 warlock in weebness.
Yeah, and it's like weird because like depending on who you talk to, there's some people who have no problem with the word, they just kind of use it. And there's people, and this is where I kind of fall in. I never use it just because I don't like the word, and I just think it's so misused and so confusing that it just feels so weird to use. And I feel like it's because it has such a derogatory origin and stuff, like I don't know, I just don't get using it. I'd much rather use the word otaku, even though that has some derogatory backstory. But
Yeah,
there
like
was a
when I,
time in
yeah.
which people used that in Japan to feel proud about their interest. I don't think there's ever been a time where people have not used weeaboo as like a legit, I'm proud of what I'm into, and not as a joke.
Yeah, that's a
I don't hear
I think
anybody
that's a
screaming,
good
I'm a
point.
weeaboo and I'm proud. Like, nobody does that.
Yeah, nobody does that. Like for me, I'm thinking about like the term weeb, and all I can all I can really feel towards it is that it's like any other fucking slur where it's just this really cheap way to like hurt somebody who's
Mm-hmm.
different from you, and that kind of bugs me on just on like a moral level. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, like people have different interests, like on some level. Like, and here's one thing I find like really bizarre when it comes to people who like throw around the word to like legitimately try and like hurt people,
Mm-hmm.
is there's this weird overly competitive attitude when it comes to like, Western culture, especially like American stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and just like, and with like, more Eastern, Japanese stuff, it's like, oh, it's this weird tribalism type of thing. And it and in some ways it almost feels like people are treating you like you're a fucking traitor. It's like, how dare you say how dare you say you like this thing, you
Mm-hmm.
fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
uh,
And
and
I just hate sorry, I'll let you continue. I'll just say this real quick. I just hate that like it's not like a lot of people don't go like, "Oh, you're an anime fan. Oh, okay, that's cool," and blah blah blah. Like, "Oh, you're an anime. That's sweet." So a lot of people just don't know. Maybe they don't know any better, or they just don't care. Like, they think they see somebody like, and I'm talking about people that aren't into anime stuff or like very little. Like, they just don't consider themselves big into Japanese kind of media or whatever. Um, the first term they'll think of when they see somebody that is weeaboo, and they think it's okay to just be like, oh look, it's a weeaboo or it's a weeb or whatever, and they think that's funny, lol, whatever. Um, and maybe they just don't know any better, and then they don't realize that that's some people just find that super derogatory, like super insulting, that just because you have like this interest in another country's like source of media and forms of art and stuff, that you should be denounced for it, that
yeah,
you should be put down because, oh, how dare you like something that is full of, yeah, it's full of schlock, but it's also full of a lot of great stuff.
a lot of
And
like really freaking creative media comes out
yeah.
of Japan, like way more creative than like some stuff I've seen in the West. And not that there can't be, but like with all the really creative stuff I've seen come out of the West, it's always been like really underground stuff. Like the
Yeah.
thing with like I'm gonna say this like real quick, but the thing with like anime and manga and just Japanese media in general is I always feel like there's much more of a priority placed on creativity than there is like financial like payoff and just
Mhm.
trying to reach like the mass market. I feel like like one of my biggest fucking issues with like a lot of Western media is this over obsession with trying to meet like to try to reach like the mass market
Hmm.
and and literally just underserving the niche in favor of the general public. And that's why everything feels so fucking boring at times, because like a lot of there's just a ton of stuff that is designed for as many fucking people as possible.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I
I
know
mean,
what you mean.
just think of like even outside of like nerd stuff. Think of like music and stuff. You know
Hmm.
how many fucking love songs there are on the radio? Like,
Uh-huh.
I feel like I'm the only one who feels this way, but there's so many songs on the radio. Like, there are too many fucking songs on the radio that are like, oh, girl, I love you, blah blah blah. It's like I'm so fucking over that shit, man. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's like a million and one freaking love songs, and yeah, it's relatable for people who've felt like that in a relationship and stuff like that. But like there's a lot of originality and just intrigue that gets lost in this mad rush for
For popularity.
popularity.
I can totally see that. Yeah, because when you look at some of the stuff that comes out of Japan, and this is especially true for visual novels, they're hitting that niche. They're hitting a very specific demographic, or they're just making whatever the hell they want,
Yeah.
and that's what they do. And they don't care about how popular it is or how much it's gonna like explode. Sometimes they do get big, sometimes they don't. They just kind of stay underground. But you don't really see people like denounce that shit usually for being like, oh, you were just trying to hit every note. And of course, there are big anime and manga that series that come out that try to do that, but usually they do get kind of knocked for it. Like they don't usually get kind of scot free off of that, or people just kind of enjoy it anyway. Meanwhile, you look at like I'm like thinking cartoons here, or like maybe some big like TV show. Like just look at look at all the TV shows that always are like being announced. Like, say, if you're watching football or any sport, there's always ads for new TV shows, and they're always marketing themselves as that next hit big series. That's how they always like go at it, as opposed to just kind of like, and they're always cop shows too.
Yeah, I know, right?
They're
They're
always
either
cop
cop
drama shows.
shows or dramas. Like, yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
just
like-
like, oh, hey, look, another one. I'm so glad to watch the same exact shit again. Like, maybe, how about you do a storyline that's completely different or something? That would be fun. Oh, God, and this even extends to Hollywood these days and how much they love to remake and just sequelize everything and not
Yeah.
focus on some new
Yeah,
creative
that's-
stuff. As much as there are still those things, like I'm not going to say there's nothing, but it's so pushed down by all the other, let's just remake shit. Like
Yeah.
the fucking Aladdin movie right now. Hell, look at that
Yep.
movie. It looks so void of creativity. I don't care.
Yeah. Like,
Uh,
I like to add on to that, like the stuff about like Sony that's been going on recently. I honest to God, I've been thinking about this. I honest to God think that what they're doing is just symptomatic of this mindset to creativity that is very common in the West, where it's like where they're trying their hardest to like distance themselves from the niche or what they would
Mhm.
consider to be weird in the Japanese market, because they're trying to hit a general audience, right? And there are a lot of people who I know or who I've heard have just said like, "Yo, this is absolutely disgusting," because it's like when the PlayStation 3 came out, right? And nobody was buying it because it was so fucking expensive. Who was keeping that fucking system alive? It was all the weebs who, or dare I go? See, it's so ingrained.
See,
into
it's
our
so
fucking
ingrained in our culture now that
Yeah.
that's what we just use sometimes.
Yeah,
And
but
I hate it.
yeah. But yeah, like that's what all it's all the niche interest stuff. That's where it all went to. It's not going to show up on the Xbox, right? And
Yeah.
because of just because of like the kind of the death of third party on like Nintendo platforms at the time, like it all kind of just went to PlayStation. So, all the niche interest people who wanted Japanese like games, they went to freaking PlayStation, and they were the ones keeping that shit alive. Now that the PlayStation 4 is popular, they're just like, fuck you. We don't need you anymore. Especially since they're now in like California, and they've started operating a lot more like an American company in certain ways. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot more about, oh, how can we get as many fucking people as possible? No, we freaking water down everything that makes our freaking system unique.
And it's that, I mean, what you're saying is a really good point, because I didn't think about it that way, but that take makes a lot of sense. But it's just funny because the mass audience is never going to play those games anyway. Like those games don't sell. Those games don't sell because every dude bro out there, and I'm not insulting dude bros. Hey, enjoy what you love. If you like sports games and Call of Duty, that's cool. I love Call of Duty as well. But like, not everybody in that category or other categories is going to pick up fucking. What are you playing right now?
What was
the one game you're playing? I can't remember what it's called.
Oh yeah, you mean Atelier Rorona?
Yeah. Do you think some random dude like who fucking works a 9-to-5 job is just gonna pick that up and just play it because look, it's trying to hit the mass demographic? No.
Yeah, the guy's gonna take one look and be like, too much pink, and throw it across the room. Yeah.
Well, due to the, lovely word of weeaboo, they're going to be like, this is one of those weeb games. I don't give a shit.
Like one of the reasons why I kind of stood away from this series, from the Atelier series for so long, was because like the first review I watched of it for like the first game, like the guy called it like, oh, this game's kind of girly and stuff, and because I was like a teenager, I was just like, I don't know about this. And and nowadays I'm just like, I watch stuff that people would say, look at you freaking girly sissy man for watching that. Now I'm just like, I don't fucking care. Like and it's not even really that good. Like from an aesthetic sense, I would say it's very shoujo-esque, but like it has its own like little charm that doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like I'm watching a freaking like Barbie movie or anything like that or something. Like it's
yeah, and it's cool because maybe this is also just how the culture is kind of developed here in the West, is that we also have to babyify and just kind of make sure everything's safe and not necessarily always try to be. But I know there is an exception, because I know stuff like Steven Universe and that stuff that's been coming out has been doing good jobs at that. But I'm talking about like a lot of other shows that are probably more generic tend to just not even try to do anything like that, and they just try to like especially if you're looking at girl shows, they're just trying to be all like, pretty cute and all this stuff. But when there are shows that do that and in a different way, you actually do get a lot of other people getting pulled in, because they are trying to focus on some more adult themes or more creative themes. And it's funny how similar and parallel you look at something like the My Little Pony craze was here. If you look back like years ago to like the 80s or 90s and stuff, and you look at like those magical girl shows and how a lot of Japanese dudes were loving them. And that's because of how like they were trying to hit themes and go in directions that are more adult or just, that make you think, and are not just trying to hit, it's cute and stuff. Like that's all we're doing. No, they're actually trying to put in proper development and in, all that stuff there.
Yeah, the difference here is that if you like MLP or anything cute, you get called a pedophile.
Exactly. I've been reading those the books, a couple of like otaku centered books, like the Moe Manifesto and the Otaku Encyclopedia. Excuse me. And when you see the interviews from creators who get told that like adult male are enjoying their work, they're just surprised and they're like, "Oh wow, I never expected that, but that's really interesting and cool and whatever." They're not
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, these guys are obviously pedophiles because all they care about are little girls." Like, no.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm gonna assume that a lot of the creators for MLP are probably fine with the fact that a lot of dudes enjoy it.
Yeah, I
But
think
it's like
yeah,
the mass audience around it. Like anybody that doesn't know and immediately hears that, they're just like, "Oh, those guys. There must be something wrong with those dudes." And it sucks that that has to be the case. Because you want to know something funny is my cousin who's much older than me. He's like in his 40s now, I think. He has children, and he's told me before and members in my family that he's watched My Little Pony with his daughters, and he enjoyed it. So
yeah, like I've seen the show too, because I'm not the type of person, not trying to humble brag here, right? But like I'm not the type of person who will just, because I keep hearing people saying, "Oh, these fucking weirdo guys." To me, I'm just like, but is the show bad or anything? Is it like, I'm just like, nobody's asking the right questions. They just want to fucking immediately point their fingers and judge people. So I'm like, okay, let me watch this show. And I'm like, oh, it's a cute kids show. It actually fucking tried for once.
yeah,
Like you don't see that every day with like a lot of kids shows in America, right?
and the ones that do, you get a lot of praise for it, which is great. Like a lot of those shows that a lot of people in the West like really put up and get so popular, and you see it in conventions and stuff, is because they do that stuff. It's not usually because they're like, oh, they're just trying to pass it off as really simple and making it seem like they're just hitting that stupid mark for kids. Like, you just need them to watch something for 30 minutes. We don't actually need to put effort.
Yeah.
For something like our generation, that was like something like SpongeBob, where to this day, everybody still quotes that damn show.
Yeah, because there's just so much fucking effort put into it.
And like, when I like reference it to my parents, they laugh because they exactly know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, that show, like right now, if you want to write comedy for a show, go watch old SpongeBob, because that show is a fucking masterclass in comedy.
Yeah.
Like, its writing is so fucking on point. Like in old SpongeBob. I'm not talking about new, like before it got canceled SpongeBob. like old SpongeBob. But yeah, like back to Weeaboo, because I feel like we've
kind of derailed that. But I mean, I think it all comes full circle, because it's kind of like, and this might very well be just because of how the Western community just views anime fans. And again, sometimes I feel like it's just from not knowing any better. Like it's just become so synonymous with the anime community, and because the anime community themselves use the words all the time to just poke fun at each other, people outside the community immediately think, "Oh, it's fine to say it too. Like, who cares? Blah, blah, blah. Let me just use it as well." And then there are probably other people who literally do use it because they don't like people that like anime and whatever.
Yeah, because they're...
So the term is just so convoluted, and it's full of so many like it has so much baggage to it that's why I don't like the term.
Yeah.
And I just prefer to say I like anime themed stuff, or I like Japanese media. Like, that's what I say. I don't go to people and be like, "Oh, dude, I'm a weeb. I love that shit." I can be tolerant of some people that I at least know that use that term, because I feel like they're not actually trying to be insulting and whatever. But at the same time, I'm not somebody who's going to say the same thing and just try to spread the word.
Yeah. So speaking on Weeaboo, right? One of the most infuriating uses of it that I've seen. Like, I've seen some people, because people are so ignorant in their use of the word, right? And the most infuriating thing, like back in the day, your boy liked watching some like J vloggers and stuff. Sometimes I still do, because like I find it interesting to see like, oh, this guy lives in Japan. What's it like for him? Or whatever, right? And you had people, and the guy was the guy's talking about like, oh, he has like people coming into his comment sections calling him a weeb or whatever, right? And just generally like a ton of other people too, like Gaijin Guma and other people like that who
Yeah.
get called weebs, and how like obnoxious that is, because it's like it goes back to like what you were saying about how the word is just thrown around like that, where it doesn't matter. Like if you have even the slightest interest in anything Japanese, people will throw it at you. There have
Yeah.
been people who are like half Japanese, like Joey the Anime Man, who
Mhm.
have been called weeaboo. And I'm like, that goes against everything the word or what originally meant, right?
Yep.
Because he is Japanese.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah, it's just mindless, brainless use of a term.
Yeah.
And in a way, I kind of want it to die out.
Oh, I definitely wanted to just go away. But a problem is, it's like a fucking. I guess I use this term. It's like a cancer cell that's just stuck in there, and
It's a meme.
it's just gonna keep there. I feel like, and unless everybody just agreed to just shut up and not say it anymore, I don't think it's gonna go away. Maybe one day it'll get replaced by a different term. But I would rather, and this is something. Oh man, this is gonna go even more offshoot now. But there's just this strange fascination, and maybe this is why weeaboo is so used in the Western culture. There's such a weird like thing that goes on, and at least here, I don't know if it happens in Japan, where anime fans and people that like this stuff and like to talk to each other and whatever, just for some reason have an obsession of using these terms or whatever to like self-insult themselves.
Oh,
It's like
I've wanted
like this use of negativity
Yo,
to talk
Nick.
with each other. It's not positivity. Like we're not using words
Yeah.
to like up each other and be like,
Yeah.
let's be friends or whatever. We're like, oh god, I'm such a weeb. Like, ugh, like I'm such a weeb. Yeah, and
Nick, I wanted to make a video about this for fucking ever, and it's just this bizarre, and it's very much like I feel like it's more of a Western anime community thing. It might be in Japan, but I
yeah,
don't know. Like, but it's especially potent on like social media.
mhm.
Is this weird, overt lack of self-esteem from like the anime community, or just like the Japanese media, from like the community of people who like Japanese media, this overt lack of self-esteem, right?
Yeah,
Because really I've been like really interested in looking up like, okay, signs, stuff about self-esteem and like self-confidence and things like that. And
Mhm.
one of the core signs of low self-esteem is negative self-talk. So if you talk about yourself negatively all the time, like that is a sign of low self-esteem, right?
Mhm.
And it's a very common thing in just the anime community in general, or just anybody who likes like
It's all over the
Japanese media,
place. Yeah,
where there's this self-deprecating nature to things, like people aren't proud of themselves, and it's actually kind of sad when I think about it now, because it's like, man, if you want to like be happy, because there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm so depressed, I'm an anime fan, I'm so depressed. Like, part of being happy is being able to accept yourself for who you are, and
Mhm.
not getting down on yourself for being a certain way, and realizing there's nothing wrong with you if you like watching, as the Filthy Franks would say, Asian cartoons. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with you.
Mhm.
Like, you may be a little different from the general society, or what people are usually like, but that doesn't mean you deserve to be like called names and insults and shit.
Yeah. Yep. And man, this is the kind of stuff that I feel like just begs research papers to go into. Like, we need people to just sit down with like goddamn PhDs and degrees to just go in and like analyze the anime community for why they do this stuff.
Yeah.
But and now that I think about it, it's just so fascinating because when you look at a lot of times when people refer to themselves as enjoying a certain trope, a lot of times the words they use for things they enjoy is very negative. Like, for example, I know this might be a bit controversial to use, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like the terms traps for dudes who look like girls. That's a very negative kind of term that we use for those kind of characters. So when you look at it that way, like when we even are talking about, and anybody that even tries to admit that they like it kind of gets denounced because immediately it's seen as weird or it's immediately seen as this kind of like a negative kind of thing. It's not like you can be like allowed to enjoy it and whatever and just go about. It's just immediately when somebody hears you say that, they use the negative term. They don't use a positive term. And that's just one example of kind of like what I mean. So it's just so fascinating that, and I feel like this is just so prevalent in the anime community that we just use all these negative terms and, yeah, as you said, like low self-esteem kind of statements to each other as a way to kind of connect, and we just kind of revel in it, and it's just so weird, in my opinion. So
yeah, it's very interesting. And like for me, I never really internalized how strange that was until I started like doing the deep dive into like, self-confidence and self-esteem, right? And when I realized that like mentally I sort of had that mindset in my own way, and I really just started to like shift away from that. And that's when it became even more like, even more obvious that this was a thing. Like, oh, like just watching everybody and just coming back and seeing like, oh yeah, look at me. I'm so fucking sad. I'm into all this weird stuff. Nobody understands me. Like all this like basically like condensed negativity, and it becomes more apparent like the farther unplugged you are from it. In its own weird way, it's like the Matrix. Like you don't realize you're in the Matrix until you like you actually when you actually realize you're in the fucking Matrix. It you almost like everything just kind of blows wide open, and you realize, oh shit, you start seeing all the abnormalities, if that makes sense. I feel like my analogy felt slightly flat, but whatever.
no, I can see what you mean by that, and I think it's an interesting point to make.
Yep. Oh boy. But yeah, like where to go from here? So I guess we should probably wrap up, because like I feel like I've said everything
I think we've said a lot of good stuff, and I think there's a lot of like other kind of conversations we can kind of keep spewing off of this, but those would be good to kind of stick with their own sort of video.
Yeah.
Such as like if we wanted to keep talking about the negativity in the anime community, that's something we can keep going on in other sort of videos and whatever. But
exactly,
just in general, I think, just kind of final statements sort of thing. To me, I will just never like the term weeaboo, and I'm not a fan whenever people use the term weeb and weeaboo and all that stuff to kind of talk about that stuff. I've kind of come tolerant of it, but I don't accept it. That's the difference there. It's not like I'm ever going to be like, oh, I think it's just A-okay to use that term. Like, use that term as you please. No. It's just, I've seen it so many times that if I was to get, like, annoyed and angry every time it like, came up, I would just be unhappy a lot of the time, and I just don't want to have to put up with that. So I'm just like, whatever. I'm just going to kind of ignore it. And know that, and at least hold on to that hope that I feel like not everybody, at least within the community, is using it in a way to be negative to each other. It's like, or at least what I mean by that is like, they don't mean it in a hurtful way. I should say it that way. They're just using it because it's just kind of accepted, and it's kind
Yeah.
of seen as like, oh, it's okay if we
Yeah,
talk
it's
to each other and
normal.
use it.
It's normalized.
Yeah.
Yep. Final statements from me. Yeah, just take care of yourself, and again, there's nothing wrong with you if you like Asian cartoons. Just have
Yeah.
fun. Like positive self-talk, talking about yourself with some level of positivity is very important. And it's important to like, live with your head up and not with your head down.
Yep.
And yeah, I just want to see other otaku take that more positive mindset kind of going forward.
Yep. Enjoy
Yep.
what you like and take pride in it. Like, just have fun. Don't have to worry about because you like that stuff. Everybody should like be allowed to make fun of you or whatever.
Yeah,
Like, that
exactly.
shouldn't be. You should just be able to enjoy as you like and not have to worry about other people calling you names and whatever. This ain't high school anymore. This ain't like high school bullying. Unless you're still in high school, then
Yeah. Anyway, I guess that's all from us.
Yep.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you later.
See you guys and gals.
Yep.